Chairman, to Ms. Yak or Mr. Merkel, I mentioned 336 at the outset. I mean, we've had 100 average of 100 monthly reports of drones in controlled airspace, and I just talked about the suspension, most recent suspension in my district of firefighting because of. So remote ID will fix that. But are there other issues with drone operations other than remote ID that need addressing by the FAA?
Yes, thank you for your question, Ranking Member DeFazio. Fundamentally, we have two barriers. The first is the airspace rules need to apply to everyone equally in the airspace. And as you mentioned, Section 336 does limit the FAA's authority in that area. We believe that repeal of Section 336 is vital to being able to consistently apply all the airspace rules to all operators in the area. And that in turn will allow remote identification, our next step in integration of drones or urban air mobility or any of these other exciting technologies, to be truly fully functional and useful, because then every aircraft will be able to see every other aircraft in the area, which will be fundamental to safety.
And I mean, my amendment does both remote ID, and it does say to the extent necessary to ensure safety and security of U.S. airspace. I mean, I think we've heard now from 4 agencies that want to be able to shoot down drones on their own. Have you been in communication with them? It's DHS, DOD, DOE, and...
We have been. We, the FAA, do not want the authority to interdict or provide counter-UAS measures. We support Department of Defense and Department of Energy having those capabilities now. We also support the administration's proposal to have the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice have that same authority.
Mm-hmm. But there are also concerns with what technologies they might use and how that might affect legitimate nearby commercial operations or general aviation aircraft.
Yes, we work closely with our security partners to ensure that whenever they're employing counter-UAS measures, that they coordinate with us and ensure that, that we do not introduce a hazard into the airspace. Okay,
want to be certain of that. So I have a provision in regarding 336 in the House bill. Would that fix the problems as far as the FAA is concerned?
I'm generally familiar with that, and yes, that does give the FAA the authority that we believe we need.
Okay. Any of the other panelists want to express any concerns about the current state of sort of where we're unregulated, totally unregulated for all drones?
Yes, I would just add support for Mr. Merkel's position, and that we also agree with that position that all aircraft need to be regulated and registered, and we need the remote identification capability. It's a critical foundational element for any sort of universal traffic management system, for providing safe integration and for allowing our commercial operators the comfort and feeling that they are following the laws, and everyone else in the airspace will as well.
Okay.
We also believe that it's important to have federal preemption, and although we're putting sensors on the aircraft that can help to mitigate unregistered drones, it would definitely be preferable if all aircraft flying in the NAS were part of the NAS.
Okay. Doctor?
I can only second that. Remote identification to me is key for us to being able to basically deconflict our flight paths from everybody out there. First, we need to be able to see them to avoid them.
Okay, thank you. And again, just one quick question, Ms. Yak or Mr. Merkel. The FAA has been working on the conflicts, and when I asked a couple of years ago what happens, when you ingest a drone into a jet engine, the answer was, well, gee, we really don't know. I mean, since then we've done the airframe testing. When are we going to do the engine ingestion test?
Thank you. I'll answer that. We've partnered with Assure, our Centers of Excellence, to do that work. They have completed phase 1, which was basically an analysis of drone versus birds, and we have a lot of data on the birds. So the conclusion of that phase 1 was, well, they are different than birds, and that from the batteries, the cameras, the motor itself, what effect would that have? So starting this fall, we're moving into phase 2, and we will then be live testing by ingesting those components as well as full drones into a fan assembly. We'll be gathering data from that experience, and then we'll be putting it into modeling and simulation. Better yet, we're using simulations from the manufacturers on their fan assemblies to be processing that data so that we can better analyze and understand the effects those components have or full UAS have on fan assemblies and be able to produce the results of this research in about 12-month, 18-month timeframe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Bruce, do you have questions?